Hello, I'm Chris Flisher, and welcome to Turning of the Wheel, an intelligent, lively discussion on astrology, art, and adventure. Timing is everything, and as the great wheel turns, we are best prepared when we are best informed. Join me as I explore the current planetary alignments and offer insights for coping with change. Educational, informative, enlightening, the Turning of the Wheel is a welcome pause in your daily swirl of constant change. Through intelligent discourse, inspired guests, and educational segments, I will help to enlighten your knowledge of astrology and guide you to accept change as the great wheel of life turns. Call in with your questions and speak with some of the greatest visionaries in the time-tested practice of astrology. Turning of the Wheel, Astrology, Art, and Adventure with Chris Flisher, each week on Turning of the Wheel podcast. Hello and welcome to Turning of the Wheel. My name is Chris Flisher. As you know, this is a show about astrology, and I love this topic of astrology. I think it provides so many answers and provides so much insight and offers us meaning for life, and that's why I spend so much time talking about it and interviewing great people who have great insights about astrology. My guest today is one of the greatest astrologers in the world. We're going to be talking about Chiron. He'll be on in a minute or two. Before we do, I want to remind you about my newsletter, which goes out every Sunday afternoon. In there, I do a couple of paragraphs of mundane astrology as it applies to all of us, and then I bust it out into the individual signs. You can get there from my website, chrisflisher.com or turningofthewheel.com. But it gives me great pleasure to have Michael Lutin on today, the one and only Michael Lutin out of New York City. He's the wonderful guy who I spent that caravan going out to Chicago with at the last UAC Congress, which was a fantastic time, and I really appreciate you putting it together. Michael is welcome to the world of Turning of the Wheel. Michael's website is michaellutin.com, Lutin.com. I encourage you to go there, and we're going to be talking about Chiron today. So welcome to the show, Michael. It's always great to have you on.
And in perfect form to be talking about Chiron. I just got a wicked cold.
Well, you're
the
wounded.
Forgive my voice. You're going to have to forgive my voice because I am coming out of it. But it's perfect Chiron because Chiron is in the horoscope to show humility. Mm-hmm. And wherever it is, you realize that you're going to have to see yourself naked, especially in the areas where you are the most embarrassed.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, that's what Chiron is. Mm-hmm. Because when you really think about the myth of it all, I never understood what that myth was all about. Somebody was deformed, he lived under a bridge, then he was in the sky. I didn't know what that was. But when I began to watch it myself, since it has been discovered in 1977, I really understood the meaning of it in every horoscope. It's the most personal part of you because it represents the part of you that you do not want discovered.
Interesting.
It's the part of you that doesn't fit in until you're 50 years old, because it was the part of you that is really a dweeb in high school. It's the part of you that does not want high school friends and teachers and everybody around you to know about this because it's so humbling.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense
to
me. Yeah, well, especially when I look at my own life. I don't want to be personal about it, but it does resonate for me. I have it in I have it square my sun in my fourth house. It's in my fourth house, and I always felt out of place because my father was a minister, and I was not at all involved in any of that stuff. I just totally rejected it all, so I really felt out of place with that whole religion thing, and that's why I turned to astrology.
Interesting, yeah. It's interesting, yeah. But it is the part of you that once you begin to become an adult at 40, your late 40s, you're 50, you realize that the thing that you've been most embarrassed about is your badge of honor and the thing people respect the most about you. The part of you that didn't fit in is now the part that people respect and admire you for. But it's still very, very humbling.
Yeah.
And no matter where you have it in your horoscope, you can't get too uppity and think you're a big shot. Because you'll get knocked down.
Yeah.
And it's the part of you also, which I think I love this part. It's the part of you that is constantly in pain until you are helping people who are worse off than yourself. And the pain disappears magically. The minute you stop helping your fellow man, the pain returns.
Interesting. I do like that. It makes a lot of sense because, it's through charity and altruism and the gift of giving that we really find our true spirit, and I think that sort of exemplifies that piece.
I think so, and people seek to flee their pain in other ways, but there is no other way except helping people, and that's how Chiron is immortal, because when you are doing the work in any area, it could be financial, it could be humanitarian, it could be personal, family. When you're doing the work and keeping your nose there is no pain. It's when you flee your job, your task, I should say, that you start to feel the pain again. And right now, as not only Americans, but as people in the world, Chiron happens to be at a certain place that is affecting everyone in the world at the same time. No matter where their natal Chiron is, everyone is confused about what's going to happen next and what they should do. They're all faced with a tremendous choice, and that choice demands a sacrifice. And they're wondering whether they are going to make the smartest move of their life or the stupidest move.
So we're all in the crux of that sort of that decision-making process.
Right there now, from now until Valentine's Day, around that time. So the choice has to be made to put you on a new path in life. And this took place, this particular position of Chiron at the end of Pisces is the end of a cycle that began in 1968-69. Because when Chiron went from Pisces to Aries, we had Woodstock, we had Manson, we had all kinds of things turning around. The Beatles broke up, Yoko Ono. So there was a dream and a shattering of the dream.
Right.
And everyone who was born in that time has been fighting to keep that part of the dream, but recognizing that you have the other half of life you have to face as well.
Yeah. I remember that era
now,
very well. That very, very well. I was about 17, 18 years old at that time. I remember it very well. I thought we had something figured out that was going to be sustainable and lasting, and it turned out that it wasn't. Sort of the flower generation.
Yeah, it's terrible that it happened, but the flower generation still lives, and the people who believe that are doing their work still. But they couldn't turn away from the darkness, and they tried to, but the darkness pervades, because the darkness, we live in a world of duality. There are the light workers and there are the darkness. There are dark workers, and that's what's happening. Since Pluto moved into the south, across the south node, it's obvious we're in a very dark place.
Yeah, we are. We're at transition time. It's we're going through an enormous transition of the highest order. I think it's going to be a resetting of the balance of some sort.
I agree. I think it's a global revolution in which we are going to become a galactic society, not just a human society.
And we had to hit rock. We had to hit rock bottom in order to get there. I mean, the pendulum has to swing so far before it can swing the other way. Do we think we're at that time?
And we're not there. No, we're not there yet. I don't think so.
You think we're going to go further down?
Yeah, I do, because I think that the dark forces have usurped a great deal of control, forcing the light people to work even harder. I'm going to sneeze now. Hold on.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
False alarm.
It didn't happen. False alarm.
It's okay. So where you think that it's going to get worse before it gets better within the period of time? I mean, are you looking at the period of time coming up to when Saturn?
When you say worse, what does that mean, worse? I think that it is that we're not going to overthrow the darkness right now. We have to learn to live with it just the way we always had to do. But we can't let it vanquish our dreams or our hopes for humanity. I think something huge and important is happening, and it's not all bad. I'm interested. Were you interested in Oumuamua at all?
And who?
Oumuamua.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that because I don't think that's just NASA propaganda, although they told us very little about what it was. I think that was a real turning point in human history that we'll never know about for quite a while.
Probably not in our lifetime.
What is, I got an anonymous, not Facebook, I got an anonymous email. I get a lot of these crazy things. But this today was from someone who claims that the thing that happened in California was done by somebody.
Right.
That they are trying to clear these. I'm not saying I believe this, okay, but they're saying that this guy, whoever he is, said that it was a purposeful thing. The nature doesn't even work like that. Seems that it was done by some force to get people out of California. And I when I see it, I realize I just read a terrible article about the air in California.
Yeah.
That's not going to come back for a while.
It's terrible.
So if I had little kids now, I wouldn't want to live there anymore, and I love that place. So I think that there's so much going on that is dark, that it seems to block out the light like the dust blocks out the sun. But it persists. Goodness persists. But it's going to have to really fight to get it to remain integrated to life, I think.
Well, it comes at a cost. There's no question about it. It comes at a cost. But through the struggle of the cost comes the redemption at the other end. I think there's a real, you rise out of the ashes, metaphorically and literally. In the case of California, you rise out of the ashes. But Chiron, yes, I agree. But Chiron at 29 Pisces, in Christian mythological proportions, is Christ. It's the Christ myth at 29 Pisces, wondering if he's being a fool to have such ideals and to believe and to have faith. Because people right now, Chris, are out of it. They're out of faith. They're just about at the end of their rope. Most of the people we know are exhausted. Yeah.
They're spiritually exhausted. Even things that they loved and people they loved and things they love to do, they're tired. They need spiritual refreshment, and they're waiting for it. And that's what's really wrong with everybody right now.
Well, you know what
they're
I think.
Waiting.
It seems as if we've done our work up front. We've done our work. We put our best interests out there. It seems as if we put our best foot out there, we've set our best intentions out there, and we haven't seen the results of that come to light yet, which is frustrating because you want to see some progress for the work that you put in. We're not seeing that progress, which makes the struggle that much harder. I think that's what you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about having faith when you have no reason to have any.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that's
I know
what's really going on. Is that, the suicidal ideation in many people is tremendous now because people do not see a way out. Because the only way out is forward through the fog that you can't see, and people are scared of that.
Right, which you can't see does hurt you. And it's interesting because there's a sense of isolation that you mentioned that I think is really a critical piece of this, which when you're alone, you have no other form, and I don't mean alone physically, but I mean alone in a sort of a spiritual sense, sort of maybe you're questioning, you're empty, you're vacuous in some ways. When you're in that alone solitude state, you don't see any way forward, and you get discouraged, I think. And that's
the... Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. It's sort of it leaves us in a sense of a quandary of betwixt and between.
But that's the irony of Chiron, because you feel out of it, you feel alone, so you try to do everything to avoid loneliness. You try to do everything to fit in. You try to do everything to take away the pain of loneliness.
Yeah.
But at night, when you turn off the light, you're with yourself.
That's it. You're alone.
And that's what you have. Yeah. And that's what you have to face.
Just as that's how it is at death as well. At death, we die alone. We die alone. It's interesting. That's okay. It's interesting. I read an article about how in England they have appointed a minister of loneliness. I mean, that is just remarkable that the English government has gone so far as to assign a person, a minister, and they're called the Minister of Loneliness, trying to combat nationwide loneliness, isolation.
Well, we have the Kardashians.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. I'm saying it does bring forth the fact that this is something that's being acknowledged by big important powers, saying we have a crisis of loneliness here, which probably leads.
Well, not in America. People don't enter. They just they go to they try to go out for a bigger meal at night. We're not. I don't see it on any kind of publicity of people backing up the fact that people are feeling so alienated and alone, and all they need to do let it happen.
Well,
let it happen.
You should be. You should. Yeah, you should. You know, it's like wearing a wool shirt. You've got to wear. You got to endure the pain. It's like sitting with the pain. You have to endure it. I think that's part of the process. And it's interesting.
And that's it. Exactly right. Mm-hmm. That is exactly what it is. Recognizing the pain of uncertainty is really a death anxiety. Of course, it is.
Yeah.
Because in order to go to the next phase, since 1968-69, in order to go to the next phase, it requires a new commitment. Mm-hmm. And that means you have to let go of some aspect of the commitment that you held on to for security and go on a new path. Something has been completed. And you have to go on a new path, and it's very scary to a lot of people.
I can see why. You know what it is? It's the fear of the unknown, and we don't know what the unknown on the other side may be absolutely wonderful. Say, why did we wait so long to change? But we don't know that because familiarity it's comfortable because it's predictable in some ways, and so we're willing to endure familiarity instead of taking that leap, even though the leap may be the necessary step. It takes courage.
It's really scary to go forward and leave something behind that you really found security in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yet that's the only thing you have to do is to have the courage and the faith, and to move forward. And people are waiting for a sign, but that's not how it works. Whatever you're doing now is part of making this commitment, even though you may not be sure of what that is, because you don't know what's the right step to take. Whatever you are doing now with faith is the path that you will now take. And you'll see it will really click in February when Chiron finally goes out of Pisces for the last time for another 50 years. It's a new path.
Mm-hmm. I can see that happening all over the world. I think the people are beginning to see that. We'll see it with the arrival of the new House members in the Congress. We'll see it with a lot of those people who have never run before were elected, and they're headed down to Washington, and they've never been there before, and they're taking a great leap of faith to try to figure this out and get things back on track. And I think that's very indicative of what you're talking about.
Back on track. What does that mean, though? Now, in terms of the history of the United States.
Well, that's a good question.
The government is unraveling. The government that we set up became so corrupt and so distorted and way off track that it's going to require a complete overhaul of what we consider to be the American government and what we consider to be America. Mm-hmm. So when they talk about Pluto transformation, they're not just talking about a facelift. The whole government is under the crumbling of a very disfiguring transformation.
Right.
And I think that President Trump is not going to be remembered as the evil genius of the world. He is the person who brought about the collapse of the government as we saw it. Yes, he is the clown. He is the clown that keeps the people laughing while the main event is taking place.
He's the catalyst for the change, and in that regard, we can only look at him that way. When I say people are arriving in Washington to get the country back on track, I understand that we're headed down a very, unpleasant road. I think what they do is they provide a counterpoint. They slow the process down. They provide a little bit of balance, at least, and nothing else.
Who?
The new people who've arrived in Washington. Like we were talking about taking a bold step into areas you're not comfortable. These people are all new
right,
people.
But I think that's true. But you realize what we're finding? There's a guy whose name is Daniel Best. He was fighting Pfizer to not raise their prices of the medications. The big medications
right?
People take.
Big pharma. Yep.
And they killed him the other day. They murdered him. He was found bludgeoned outside a garage, and the coroner said it was suicide. Now, I don't know of anybody who commits suicide by bludgeoning themselves.
No, you can't do that.
But he was.
And he was
He was.
who was
he was killed.
Because why? Because he was a whistleblower?
Yes. He was fighting the raising of the prices. Last night, Pfizer announced.
I see. Yeah, they announced they were going to raise the prices on things like insulin and necessary life-sustaining drugs.
This is terrible. My cold is terrible.
I'm sorry that you don't feel well, but I do think it's.
I feel all right. It's just that I'm coughing this stuff up.
Yeah. I didn't realize that story. His name was, what was his name again? Donald Best?
Daniel Best.
Daniel
you can
Best.
Google him. You'll see it happen just a couple of days ago.
And was he a reporter or was he a...
No, I think he was an executive in one of the drug companies or was working in some agency to keep the prices from going up. And yesterday they announced they're going up.
Wow.
So there's darkness. There's definitely darkness, and there's horrendous materialism. And there's also humanitarianism. And there's some days the humans win, and some day the aliens win, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So we're in a battle, and not to pretend differently is wrong. We are in a battle for the control of the earth by people who are unscrupulous. And the people fighting for the earth are people like you and me and all the people we know are fighting for brotherhood and sisterhood and to enter into a galactic society that we're headed to.
Yeah.
But there are many forces against us to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with it, and it makes a lot of sense because we try so hard to push this rock up the hill, and it keeps rolling down. We are being, we're losing the battle in some ways, which makes the battle that much harder. But then again, the harder the battle, I guess, the sweeter the victory, as the saying goes. But I think that the what we're up against is a tremendous wall of corporate and power resistance that is going to force us to, I think, in some ways, overturn society completely with that regard. And I think the revelation that you're bringing to light here, this leap of faith with Chiron, sort of solidifies that and makes it, culturally relevant and accurate at the time.
There are still young people falling in love, having babies, singing songs and dancing. That's always what cures the world. Older people are always shaking their heads in dismay. But there are younger people coming in, comedians, actors, singers, painters, who have no interest in the darkness. And they're fighting for their corner of the world, which is art, beauty, music. And those things really are what keeps society alive and humans evolving.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's
but we are in a...
Arts have always been what has inspired humanity and kept the light going at the end of the tunnel. It's always been the arts that have kept that. And the arts have always been a sort of a preview of what's to come. They are always on the leading edge of where we're headed.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think because the artists are Chiron people also. They don't fit in.
Yeah.
They're often seeing it way ahead of their time. And, where we are now, we're older in life. We're not teenagers. So we have a certain cynical view about it, even though we try to be optimistic. But as you said, it's disappointing that Woodstock didn't happen. But it did.
Well, it did, but it certainly dissipated. I thought for sure we were on to something back then. I still genuinely feel that in my gut, that I thought we were on the right track back then. I thought the idea of community living, and the idea of supporting your neighbor, the idea of vegetarianism, the idea of all the things that sprouted out of that generation, I thought were all valid and were sustainable.
They were and they are. Why are we having this conversation? Why do you have a radio show? Why am I writing and speaking about this? That's all came out of Woodstock and the whole era of hope that it engendered.
Well, I agree with that.
So
I think it's alive. I guess I'm impatient. I'm impatient in as much as I thought we would be here, would be there sooner, and would be
Me
easy.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. I thought we'd all be singing, holding hands and singing feelings.
Yeah.
I thought that was all going to happen.
Any song but feelings.
But
yeah, I know.
The fact is that there is reality, and what happened was the world went into materialism and war. The war is going. The military is always paranoid and full of defensiveness. And the reason is because even if the aliens arrive in the spaceships, there's no reason to think they're all good and they're all singing songs. The aliens that are, I believe, that are approaching the Earth and observing us, there are some that are shaking their heads in dismay at what the world has become, and there are some who are really happy that it gives them a chance to move in and control things. That the alien consciousness is just as diverse as the human consciousness. So the battles remain. The battles never go away for equality, for justice, for truth, for helping your fellow man. And there are other forces that just want to control it. That's why we were struggling under this so strongly. Some of us are working for honesty in business, integrity in the corporate world, and others just are going to keep raising their prices, squeezing the little guy.
As a kid, I always thought.
As
a kid, I always thought that the one thing that would solve the problem of war in general was if everybody on the planet, all of the human species, had a common enemy. And I didn't mean that to be disparaging or wishing to have war. I just thought there would be a uniting factor. And to me, it seems as if the uniting factor is more about perhaps the climate is what it's all about. The climate is a great challenge. We're all facing it, and we may all have to face it someday when we have water in your bedroom and you're down in the Battery of New York City. These things are real. And
it's very real. But I think that there are some people, I hate to say it, Chris, who when the water is in the living room, will think, first of all, I bet I could pick up this building cheap.
Oh, yeah, and raise it. That's true. That's a good point. Now they got oceanfront property.
You've got some people who will organize their thinking around how they can profit from it. Mm-hmm. And that's why mom and pop shops are disappearing.
Oh, it's so
completely.
Sad. So sad, yeah.
Amazon is making... I went on Amazon one time to look at... I forget it was something. I wonder if it existed or they had it. And all I did was ask if they had it, and they shipped it to me.
Oh my gosh!
I've got something with I'm some sort of thing with Amazon. They've got everything. 2 days later, I got it in the mail. I didn't even buy it. I thought I didn't.
You probably hit the wrong button. Yeah, instant shopping.
I hit the wrong button.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I hit any button, but apparently I did. So if I can do that, why would I risk going to a mall where I'm going to be shot?
Exactly.
So people's paranoia is being fed by these things. I think there's a thing going on in New York now of shopping in small places for Christmas. I think I heard that on TV. They encourage people.
Yeah, they certainly are a catalyst for that, and they do because of that. Because you don't have to leave your house and go out and socialize with people and support merchants in malls, you become even more isolated. This is one of my biggest observations of this generation is the isolation factor. More people are working at home because they don't want to commute. More people are ordering their groceries and their food, everything right to their doorsteps. They don't have to leave the house. They don't have to interact. I find that to be a disturbing turnaround.
Me too, because we're from the other world.
Well, I liked going out to the store and having them know my name when I walk in and they know what kind of bread I want or whatever. I like that.
Me too. So me too. I love that. I love the neighborhood feeling of even New York City.
Yeah.
Where people what we're moving toward is a more isolated, and we can't say it's good or bad. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to preposterous terms, though. It's going to the point where people are ordering. You can call up a guy and have a guy deliver a cup of coffee to your house if you want to. A Starbucks cup of coffee to your house. You can have somebody who will do that for you. That's how absurd it is.
I saw a pizza delivered by a self-driving car.
Oh, that's scary.
Now, I don't know whether that was a test case or what, but I saw a video of it. Car comes up. The window goes down. The guy goes out. He gets takes the pizza. I guess he paid for it. And the window goes up, and the car drives away.
Wow!
It's just another world. It's another world. AI is taking over, And it's very scary to me because I'm a humanist.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never have Alexa in my house because I think it's scary.
Yeah,
but it's because I belong to the 20th century.
Yeah. Yeah, it is
And
interesting.
so-
we have to evolve. We have to become contemporary, though. By the same token, don't we? We've got to become contemporary. We're contemporary people living in a contemporary world. We sort of have to use these tools in some capacity in order to survive in this world. You can't live without an ATM.
It's just a question of how much of the new technological world you can integrate into your life and how much you reject.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I do get that. We're talking today with Michael Lutin. We're talking about Chiron and its influence on our generation and where we have to go. We're going to take a quick break here right now. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. I encourage you to check out his website, michaellutin.com. And I actually encourage you to become a subscriber of his because he's got a great little back room, so to speak, where you get much more insight into Michael and what he's doing and sort of the knowledge and wisdom he's passing out. So I encourage you to do that. michaellutin.com. Just the word Michael and LUTIN.com is his website. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes, so hang in there. We'll be back.
What is your destiny? Where are you going? What is your real purpose? Do you know? Do you want to know? Of course you do. It's your duty to yourself. We are all here for a reason, and we all have great potential. Discover all of this and more with a professional astrology reading. My name is Chris Flisher, and I can help you. Discover your strengths and work on your weaknesses, and live your life to its fullest capacity. Based on your birthday, birthplace, and birth time, an authentic astrology reading will allow you to live your life to the fullest and reveal your true purpose. Only real astrology can give you real information. It is your destiny, and it is your path. Write me at chris@chrisflisher.com and book a reading today. Or call me at 978-393-1036. That's 978-393-1036. www.chrisflisher.com.
Astrology is the science of spirit, and it can serve as an invaluable aid in making the difficult choices in life and seeking truth in all the directions we choose. It holds the potential to allow each of us to evolve to our highest potential. It is the logic of the universe, the code of existence, and the pathway to true wisdom. It is our duty to draw from it the instructions for our lives and to live them to our fullest potential. As the great wheel turns, we are best prepared when we are best informed.
Hi, your host, Chris Flisher here. I've been producer and host of this podcast and radio show for the past 10 years. My goal has always been to provide enlightening, progressive, and logical discussions about where we are as a species and how we move ourselves further down the road towards our greater potential. I believe astrology provides a great tool for observing our progress and awakening our consciousness to becoming a whole, better, and more complete individuals. I have sought to invite the best contemporary guests, thought leaders, and progressive minds to discuss topics that concern us all, regardless of your beliefs. Consider making a contribution through PayPal to help keep the great wheel turning so that I can continue for the next 10 years along the same enlightened path. As always, I thank you for your support.
Okay, welcome back to Turning of the Wheel. My guest today is the one and only Michael Lutin. michaellutin.com is his website. And we're talking today about Chiron and how to cope with Chiron. Now, we spent a lot of time in the first segment of the show talking about its impact on us and how we see it manifesting itself. But I think Michael's got some ideas and suggestions about how we might be able to move it forward.
Yes.
So what do you think would be the way, how would we address this other than just taking that leap of faith like you mentioned earlier?
One is to examine your existence, that you're doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're wondering what you're alive for, why you're alive, what your purpose is here, who needs you, who loves you, who doesn't love you, the things you have been able to accomplish, and the things that you will never accomplish. The things that you wish would happen, and the things that you know can never happen. So it's facing yourself on the deepest and most realistic level.
So,
I had said to you, Chris, a moment ago, that I have a cold now, and I said, does this coughing that I have, is it wrecking our conversation? And you said, very wisely, no, you're just the same as everybody else, and that's what Chiron does. It's a humbling leveler. that lets you know that you're a flawed, gifted human, that you have many gifts and things that the heavens gave you. But because you're incarnated, you are flawed and you have limitations, and accepting those is what makes you human and gives you.
Yeah. It gives you strength. I mean, we are human. We have flaws. We have gifts. We have flaws. I think it's the combination of the two that's the duality once again.
It is the duality once again, and what Chiron's purpose is to remind you and makes you more empathic to other people's flaws, because you really have so many of your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the purpose of having a Chiron transit, is to recognize, is to become empathic to other people's ills and other people's limitations. And I know that for myself, when I'm doing my work in my office, when I'm working on people's astrological charts, and I can put myself completely into it, when I'm not thinking of myself, when I can completely feel the commitment to doing that work, then I can see something happen in the other people's eyes. A light goes on, and then I don't have any pain, because I know I'm doing the right thing. But then
you're selfless in that regard.
I don't want to say selfless, because it just sounds like washing your floors on your hands and knees. But it's a certain kind of becoming completely interested in lifting that automobile with your bare hands to pull somebody else out from under it.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not thinking of yourself at that moment. And when I get those moments and I see that thing happen to the people, when I lift that automobile and the people crawl out from under, I don't have any pain. I don't have any doubt. But it's when you are alone, you have all the doubts that you were born with. All of the things people told you about yourself, the school, the teachers, the church, your parents. The voices never stop.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can develop, if you can throw yourself into a commitment of whatever it is, something you really believe in with all your heart and soul, then no matter how many times you're disappointed, you'll come out on top eventually. But you have to go through that feeling of being foolish.
Yeah. That's a really important point. I like to spend some time talking about that. The idea of, because I mean, foolish is, I think what you mean underneath all that is the ability to be humble, and that's not always easy for people. Humility is a very difficult thing. But those of us who can be humble and be foolish and be able to recognize the warts that we have on us and embrace them, then we have the ability to heal. I think it does come down to humility. The Dalai Lama says this. This is the greatest quality of a human being, is humility and the charity.
I know he does, yeah. Mm-hmm. He said once, if you want world peace, just leave this auditorium and go make a phone call to the person you are currently not speaking to.
Yeah.
So he has a certain simple view.
But in that simplicity is real depth. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
He's a remarkably wise man. I have a thing in my house that says that the greatest gift is to give. If it's a quote from him, I don't know the whole quote, but that's the greatest gift in the world, is to give back. And I think that in that process of giving back, we started out this conversation talking about the ability to give to others, is in that we find our strength in ourselves, and we find a self-satisfaction. But we don't do it for that reason. We don't do it to be put ourselves up on a pedestal. We do it. We have to do it for genuine reasons, which are to be genuine in your pursuit of this.
But people eventually get to a point, and they do. That's what the zero Aries point is. We're realizing that they have given all that they can give, and they get very angry that they have done so much giving and not been thanked for it. Mm. But you never know when the kind of things that you do for kindness and compassion, you never know when they come back to you or how they come back to you, and you never know what good that they do. It's just like the bishop's candlesticks in Les Miserables. You never really know where, and if you may never see the person again, but you know that if you've made a contribution to their consciousness, they may be the worst sociopaths, and for your own survival, you have to pull away from them. But if you can do so with compassion, even though you need your own, you have to survive on your own also. But if you can always have compassion at that moment, then you have won some major battle with the darkness, and you've also done something for other people that lasts them for lifetimes.
Yeah,
but
I think
it's
you're
really
right.
Very hard.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think you get there through a difficult path, though. I think the way you develop empathy, I don't think you're not born with empathy. Some people, I'm sure, are. But I think you have to develop it through life experiences, through hardship, where you have to see what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes. And that's how you really, and I think that we don't see much of that today. People are not that empathetic in that regard because they seem to be somewhat insular. And this insularity is what bothers me, because I think it's this retreat from social interaction and engagement that pushes that further out, makes the dialogue even harder because we're so isolated.
But it's just very hard when you're all alone and in doubt to recognize that you do have that. You have the fuel to continue. Mm-hmm. And so many people think they're out of fuel right now.
Well, it's easy
because
to
so many outer events are against it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where it has to all come from, your inside belief that you're on the right road. And if you are not on the right road, you are able to get off that road and follow another path. But do it wisely, because this Chiron at 0 is taking you on a new and fulfilling but very different path in life for 50 years to come. Mm. This is a big one. Mm-hmm. This is a big one, Chris.
You think it's a global event?
Absolutely, it's global because it's happening to everybody at once. Mm-hmm. Something new is happening. Something new is about to happen. I feel it.
Yeah, I feel it too. I think we're seeing the signs of it already as we see the disintegration of this, of our government structures and this sort of audacity that we see behind the White House. It's this, and I think that the path to get there is difficult. And I think that the idea of humility, coming back to humility and selflessness, will be the only thing that really sees us forward, because that is the root of all that is love. At the basis of it, that is still love, and love is going to conquer all. I do believe that ultimately will come, not without a cost.
And Chiron is about to station direct next week or so, next week or two.
Right.
Chiron is about to station direct and go the last 3 degrees in Pisces, where compassion and release from pain is the message that people are seeking, because there is painfulness in letting go and saying goodbye. Many goodbyes are going to be said, not just personal relationships, but people are changing their lives significantly now because of what's going on. Those people you and I have a friend who lived out there in Paradise, California.
Yeah, I know.
I don't mention her name.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I haven't heard back from her yet, but I heard she's okay, but I don't know about her house or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I know many people out there who had a terrible time with that. I was following them on Facebook, and I realized that they had to escape. They had to run. Many people lost everything they ever owned.
But it's symbolic. It's making it would hopefully make everyone see that your whole life can be swept away in seconds.
Yeah.
These people had to grab their dog and their computer and run out of the house.
Yeah.
That I just saw on TV today that there are huge waves that were crashing in the Canary Islands, destroying buildings and hotels. And I've always heard that if there was any kind of tsunami in the Canary Islands, the east coast of the United States could kiss their ass goodbye. That's what I had always heard.
Why is that?
But
Because
I just saw it. But because a tsunami crossing would hit the East Coast of
Oh,
America.
I see, yeah.
So I don't. It didn't look like it looked like a tsunami, but they didn't call it that. But I just saw it. It was crashing against the hotels on the Canary Islands. So anybody is vulnerable. Nobody is insulated. Even Jeff Bezos and all the people with trillions of dollars. No one is insulated from the magic of transformation when it happens.
Well, now, how do you see the transformation of Chiron in relation to Pluto and the coming Pluto-Saturn-Jupiter conjunction? Do you see them as being connected? Is that?
Yes.
That's the unfolding.
Chiron at the end of Pisces has one final word: impermanence.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you think you can hold on to forever can you hold on to forever.
Right.
And when you accept the fragility of what you try to make permanent, you're very, very disillusioned. When you can embrace it, fully embrace your life, knowing that it's fragile, you appreciate everything in your life all the more.
Yeah. It's a profound, and the ability to let go and to realize that life is impermanent is a very strong Buddhist tenet. It's one of the four great foundations of Buddhism. And the fact that this is going through Pisces is so critical. I mean, it stuns me in how accurate it is with astrology to have this going at this
Isn't
point.
it?
Yeah, it's just so precisely accurate. You can't deny it, and not everybody sees it. It's difficult to get that across to people because they sometimes roll their eyes.
Nobody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to look at impermanence.
Yeah.
Why would they say that? I just bought this car. Don't tell me it's impermanent.
Yeah, really. I just bought this.
I just paid off my mortgage. What are you telling me is impermanent?
Yeah.
So people are seeking security in permanence, when in fact, the way you can appreciate security is to recognize it's all an illusory movie that's flowing past you in your life.
Yeah.
And by appreciating every moment and not looking at the end of it,
mm-hmm.
but looking at the magnificence of the moment, you realize what a rich person you are.
That's a very hard concept for many people to grasp, though. I think it's difficult to grasp the idea of living in the moment because we are not really focused that way. And that's why it's such a hard practice to embrace and to really... I try to be that way as much as I possibly can. And I have to remind myself not to worry about tomorrow. I have to remind myself not to worry about next year. I have to say, live here. But we also have to plan. We've got to plan. We've got calendars. We've got bills to pay. We've got insurance. We've got medicines to take. All these things are vital.
That's right.
And we can't deny that. But at the same token, we do have to understand that the overarching theme is we are all coming to an end and nothing is permanent. I mean, that's just the way it is. And in some ways, thank God it is that way because we wouldn't have change otherwise. We know we're on this gigantic corkscrew of time that goes around and around and always further down the road we go, never to repeat what we've been through.
But this Christmas season is one that we will never forget, and it will be the Christmas of 2018 that we will see is the real turning point in our lives.
In what way?
Any other.
In what way do you think?
Because Chiron is moving forward on December the 8th or 9th,
mm-hmm.
and it's moving, and it's going to move swiftly across, as Uranus will leave Aries in March. The Chiron thing will be the final decision you make, which will carve your life out for quite a while. And not to do so with desperation or darkness, but to do so with the awareness that you are being guided by something. And sometimes it's very hard to acknowledge that you're being guided. If you had to run out of your house because there was a fire, it's hard to believe that as a blessing in disguise.
So loss can be. I mean, that's true. That comes with any real true. That comes with any real true loss. You know, you may see that as a loss, and it's a blessing in disguise. You don't realize that at the time,
because some things are tragic that happen to people. That's
mm-hmm.
the thing we can't pretend doesn't happen. The things that happen to people are incredibly tragic.
I know.
But what comes out of that tragedy is the miracle and the magic. And I can't even be the one to judge what it is. But each person has their own moment that they have to face the change that comes from within and gives them the faith to conquer and face anything. Human beings are amazing. Right now they're scared. But you know what? February will come and go and everybody will be on a new path and all the fear about it will disappear because they'll be moving forward.
Well, I think in the moving forward, you've got to just move forward with the right frame of mind. That's what it comes down to.
Wow. Wow, that's my cold. Hold on. This is the worst cold I've had in a long time.
If you want to end, I'm fine with that. If you want to make a few statements, I don't have a problem with that.
I think I've said a lot.
Yeah. You have.
I've done a lot of coughing, which I think people should think of my coughing as my punctuation.
Okay. To how strong this is. Yeah.
Well, I never get a cold like this. It's just absolutely crazy. But I walked through that storm, and I thought, this is Chiron at the end of Pisces. I'm walking through a storm. And that's what I did. It was a terrible walk home. But I felt this is what people are doing. They have to march through the storm, and they'll come out on the other side, I promise.
And you'll be better in a couple of days.
No, I went to the doctor today. She threw me out. She said, you don't even have to be here. Just drink fluids. You're fine.
Just go home and go to bed.
Yeah, well, no, she said, no, go to work tomorrow. She said, but you're not sick anymore. I said, but I'm coughing. She said, that's what's good. You get rid of it.
Well, I think that your comments are all been very succinct, and we know exactly what you're referring to. I think that the idea of humility and the idea of preparing for a major loss of some kind, but have faith that there's goodness on the other side is enough to sustain us. But that is a very powerful message, and one that we can't avoid, and nor one that we can run from, because this is happening to all of us. And so, everybody's in it. Yeah, so we're all in it together, even though we're very alone at the moment. Right. But in that loneliness, you can find great strength if you have the ability to perceive it that way and to take it that way. So let's call it quits, Michael, here, and I want you to go and rest and get better, and I want you to have a good Thanksgiving, and I want you to be
have a great Thanksgiving,
and I want you to be on the planet. So take care of yourself, okay?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, we've been talking today with Michael Lutin. MichaelLutin.com is his website. I encourage you to go and sign up for his website and to follow his writings there. Also on Facebook. I hope you're better than you sound. But I do appreciate you.
I'm way better than I sound.
Yeah. And I'm glad you wanted to come on today. I was surprised. I was willing to postpone it, but no, you wanted to come on, and that shows you've got faith, and that's good. You're an inspiration to us.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Take
Michael.
It easy, Chris.
Okay, you talk. Be well, please. Be well.
Bye-bye. Yeah,
Take
I'm good.
Take care.
You've been listening to Turning of the Wheel with your host, Chris Flisher. To schedule a reading with me or to order artwork, you may visit my website at www.turningofthewheel.com. That's www.turningofthewheel.com. Or you can call me at 978-393-1036. Thank you. And as always, be open to possibilities.